I wanted to make this video to pay tribute to Pat Patterson, who passed away a few weeks ago. He was a huge part in the rise of the WWE since the 70s, when he became the first Intercontinental Champion. He was born Pierre Clermont. He officially changed his name to Pat Patterson later in his life. And I really wanted to make this video to pay tribute to him, because I really think he's someone who was a keystone. He was one of the key guys who was always there in the WWE. Up until recently, even with COVID, he was still backstage. It is a huge loss to WWE, and they reacted in a way that you would expect them to. They were obviously very sad. I'm sure Vince and all the people who knew Pat for years were really sad about this. Every single star pretty much talked about him. The Rock, he was really close with him. The Rock did a very good Instagram post. You saw Vince talk about him. You saw Stephanie wrote a very nice post. Triple H, John Cena, Hulk Hogan, they were very good friends. Almost everyone in the business posted about this. It was a big loss to the company because of how much, how long he's been there, and how much he's been through with the company. It's one of those things where you think about Vince is someone everyone thinks about WWE, but Pat Patterson's been there with Vince almost all that time. There was times, and this was actually a cool moment. This was back in the Stone Cold podcast. Vince McMahon was talking about how when they would write Raw, instead of having 10 writers in a room, or I don't know how much it is now, they would write it in his pool or in his backyard by his pool. He'd write the script, Vince would, with Pat Patterson. Those would be the only two. They'd write the script, and they'd write Monday Night Raw, and it would just be them two. That's how much Pat's meant to this company. When they did that video for him, his tribute, which was also, I wanted to mention other people who talked about him. Gerald Briscoe, him and Pat have been very good friends. Of course, they were the Stooges when they were Vince's Stooges in the Attitude Era. That was hilarious. He did a very nice video. WWE posted a video of it on their YouTube channel. It's really good, of Pat Briscoe paying tribute to Patterson. And he, there was a lot of stories you can tell about Pat Patterson that are really funny. There's also a lot of them that are really, really sad. Some of them, when you hear them, he was actually probably one of the better parts of Legends hosts. And of course, on this show, that's where Pat Patterson officially came out as gay. That was the worst kept secret in wrestling. Everyone had already known about Pat Patterson. And he revealed it, and it was supposed to be this big shock, but everyone already knew. He was there as someone who was always one of the backstage figures in the company. When he talked about this, it was one of those things where no one really, it didn't have an effect, to be honest, but it was something that it was obviously true. He was with a man, Louis Dondero, since the 1950s. And it was Pat on that show, Legends Host, revealed he'd been with Louis for 40 years. And there's a really sad story about Louis. I thought I should mention it. This goes back to King of the Ring 1998, of course. This is where Undertaker and Mankind had that classic Hell in a Cell match. Bruce Pritchard even talked about this on his podcast when they talked about the King of the Ring show. What had happened was, Bruce was there. He couldn't find Pat, and he was yelling, "Where's Pat? Where's Pat?" Because Pat was there for every match. He couldn't find him. The person who finally answered his question was Jerry Briscoe, and he told him, "Yeah, what do you want?" And he revealed to him that Pat's partner, his longtime partner Louis, had a heart attack and died, and that was shocking. And you even hear it, Pat was in Vince's office, and Pat tells the story about Mankind, Mick Foley. After the Hell in a Cell match, he's all bloody. He has a tooth in his nose, through his nose, and he's consoling Pat. And Foley even said, I think he said in one of his books, that he actually thought that he killed Louis because he had a heart attack because of when he saw Mick's fall. That's how crazy it was. But of course, that's not true. I also wanted to mention he legally changed his name to Pat Patterson in 2008. Recently, Pat, he's been with the company. He worked backstage there really up until his death, even with COVID. He was briefly 24/7 champ, if you remember that. I remember that. He was he won that horrible belt, but that was something he would always do. He'd won the hardcore title. He had that horrible evening gown match with Jerry Briscoe at King of the Ring 2000. He would just do crazy stuff. He was someone who was always, he was just one of those key figures in the company that's hard to imagine WWE without Pat Patterson. It's almost like Vince not there. That's how much he's meant to that company, how long he's been there. He passed away 3 weeks ago now. He had liver failure. It was caused by a blood clot. The blood clot was out of Miami, Florida. That's when he was diagnosed on the 2nd of December. And of course, he had liver failure there. He was 79 years old. Many of the wrestlers paid their tributes to Pat. It was very sad seeing the reactions, how much he's meant to so many people. And I knew I'd see that reaction. And I thought it was even more appropriate for WWE to do I think this is probably my favorite video package ever done for a deceased wrestler. Was with Pat. I watched it like 3 or 4 times. It's really sad, but it's really upbeat too because it talks about Pat. And the song is "My Way" by Frank Sinatra, one of the best songs. I listen to that a lot. I love Frank Sinatra, one of my favorites. And that was Pat's favorite song. There's even they even show him singing the song during the Legend House show. And when you look at Legend House, a lot of wrestlers have now died. It's really, it's horrible. So many of them have passed away now, and that was only made around 6 years ago. You look at who's passed. I wanted to mention this. If you have the entire cast, you had Roddy Piper, who died in 2015. You had Gene Okerlund, who died in 2019. Pat Patterson recently died in 2020. And Howard Finkel, he died in 2019. So 4 stars, man, who are all on that show have all passed away. It's really sad. Really, really sad to hear that. My deepest condolences go to Pat Patterson's family, go to the WWE family who Pat was a part of. And it's a really sad story. To honor Pat, I think I can't play it because I'd get banned from YouTube, but if you really want to honor him, I'd recommend watching that video package once again, Frank Sinatra, My Way. Pat Patterson, he did it his way. There's no doubt about it, and he will forever be missed in the WWE.